Let's say this is you, and you've got less than a week until the SAT. You've studied so much and you've practiced a lot. But deep down, you still feel like you're missing something very important. And you're right, because most students don't fail the SAT from lack of knowledge. They fail because they don't know how to play the SAT game. And in this video, I'm giving you the every strategy that I've seen work. So let's get started. Today, we're talking about improving your SAT score by at least 100 points. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through my 7 favorite SAT tips that will massively improve your SAT score. After watching this, you will think differently about the way you solve SAT questions. By the way, I'm Azamat and I've helped over 100 students to improve their SAT scores. Alright, let's dive in. Tip number 1 is what I call equal not superior technique. You're seconds away from picking your answer. You've narrowed it down into 2 choices, your heart is racing, one answer seems to fit, but the other feels slightly better, and then bam, time's up, you pick the wrong one. Why? Because the SAT just pulled its sneaky tricks on you. Here's what they do. They give you a passage that describes 2 behaviors, one about cleaning, the other about hunting. No judgment, no comparison. There are just facts. Then in the answer choices, they throw in a trap, one that suggests one behavior is more important than the other, and your brain, craving simplicity, falls for it. Maybe you think, well, they did spend a bit more time talking about cleaning, so it must be the focus, right? Well, that's actually wrong. And that's exactly what they want you to think. And here's the secret. Look for equal weight, not implied priority. If a passage presents 2 things neutrally without comparing them, the correct answer will not suggest one is better or worse. If an answer choice says contrast, preference, cross it out immediately. The right answer, it will match the neutral tone of the passage, just stating facts, no preference and no bias. And that's why C is correct. So next time, here's what you need to do. If a passage describes multiple things without comparing them, then immediately eliminate any answer that says contrast, preference, or better than. I'll look for an answer that keeps a neutral descriptive tone. That's how you beat the SAT on its own game. But there is still one more trick they use that almost nobody talks about. And if you don't catch it, you'll fall for it every single time. Tip number 2 is what I call the forbidden value trick. You're flying through your SAT math section, question after question. You feel unstoppable, and then you see it. A simple looking equation. X multiplied by r minus 5 plus 4 equals 13x plus 30. It kind of sounds easy, but there is a trap. And if you don't catch it, you're walking straight into a score-crushing mistake. The question asks, what cannot be the value of r? Most students start solving for x, moving terms around and trying to get an answer. And that's exactly what the SAT wants you to do. Waste your valuable time. But what if I told you there is a shortcut, a way to solve this instantly without doing all the algebra? You keep working through the equation, you're convinced that you're getting closer. You simplify, you isolate x, and then something weird happens. You end up with an equation that suddenly doesn't work. The numbers don't add up, your calculator gives an error. Your confidence is shattered. But here's the trick. Instead of solving for x, look at when the equation breaks. In SAT math, an equation has exactly one solution as long as the coefficient of x is not 0. And if the coefficient of x disappears, the equation collapses, making it impossible to solve. So let's break it down. Firstly, rearrange the equation x multiplied by r minus 5 minus 13x equals 26. Factor out x. So we get x multiplied by r minus 5 minus 13 equals 26, and that will equal to this. For there to be exactly one solution, r minus 18 doesn't equal to 0, which means r cannot be 18. So that's our answer. Choice C, 18. Now that you know the trick, here's how to use it in other SAT questions. Always check when the coefficient of x becomes 0. This is the SAT's hidden breaking point. If an equation has no solution, that means the forbidden value is the answer. Instead of solving the whole equation, eliminate the impossible value instantly. By the way, if you're serious about boosting your SAT score, make sure to click the join button below. You're in the middle of the SAT, dialed in, locked, cooking, and then boom, a word that you've never seen before. Incontrovertible. Clock is ticking, heart is racing. Does it mean controversial? The opposite? What do? You're gonna panic, guess, or maybe move on. And just like that, one question could cost you tens of points. But here's the crazy part. You already know the answer. And it's not just to this word, to dozens of other words as well. The SAT is a trap. They try to slow you down and they want you to burn time. And most students, they fall for it. They think the only way out is to memorize hundreds of words, which is like trying to drink the entire ocean. But here's the cheat code. Instead of memorizing words, you decode them. You may be thinking, how? A prefix is like a secret key. It tells you exactly what a word means before you even finish reading it. And check this out. In means not. Contra means against. Verts means turn. So if you put it together, we get not able to turn against, aka undeniable. So boom, word cracked, no memorization, no stress. But what if the SAT throws something worse at you? Like misapprehend. Are you gonna guess, skip, or are you gonna pray? No, you break it down. Mis means wrong. Apprehend means to understand. So misapprehend means to understand something incorrectly. You didn't memorize it, you kind of unlocked it. And here's where it gets wild. There are only 32 prefixes that make up most of the hard words on the SAT. Pre means before, precede, which means to come before. Sub means under, submarine means underwater. Re means again, rebuild means to build again. And I put all 32 of them into a free worksheet that you can find in the description below. You're reading an SAT science passage. The words, pure nonsense. Mitochondrial transcription factors regulate gene expression in response to oxidative stress. What does that even mean? You read it and still nothing. Clock is ticking, stress is rising, and your score is dropping. But here's the fix. A simple trick that makes science passages 10x easier to understand. And here's the truth. Most of the science terms don't matter. The SAT doesn't really care if you know what oxidative phosphorylation is, so don't waste your time decoding those complex terms. Instead, focus on what actually makes sense. The passage says transcription factors influence cellular response. Ignore transcription factors. Just focus on influence response. So make sure that you skip the jargon and read the meaning instead. When you stop getting stuck on jargon, everything changes. You read faster, you understand better and more, you answer questions with confidence. Alright, skipping jargon, it's powerful. Breaking down words, it's really game-changing. There are 4 strategies that you need to know if you want to get a high SAT score. And in this video, I'll show you each of those strategies and I'll explain exactly how you can use them on SAT questions. So, by the way, my name's Azamat and I got 780 on the SAT math section. So, let's get into it. So, the first strategy is eliminating fractions early on in these types of questions. And to show you how to use this strategy, let's solve this exact question. So the first thing that you want to do is that you want to eliminate fractions early on, as I said before. So to do that, we should find the least common denominator. In this case, the least common denominator is 6xyz. And what we can do is we can multiply the entire equation by this equation. So we can multiply the entire equation by this. So let's do that step by step. 6xyz multiplied by 1 over 3xy plus 6xyz multiplied by xyz, and that is going to equal to 6xyz multiplied by 1 over 2yz, 1 over 2yz. So now we can simplify each term here. X and y are removed here. And 6 over 3, that's going to equal to 2. So we got 2z plus 6xyz squared. And that's going to equal to, we can remove y and z here. And 6 over 2 equals 3. So 3x. So now we can solve for y. And before solving for y, let's subtract 2z from both sides. That is equal to 2z. So that will be 6 multiplied by x, y, z squared. And that's going to equal to 3x minus 2z. And now we can divide both sides by 6. So we get x, y, z squared equals 3x minus 2z divided by 6. And now we can take the square root of both sides. So that would be x, y, z equals 3x minus 2z divided by 6x. And now what we can do is we can divide both sides by z by zx so that we can isolate y. So that would be this multiplied by 1 over xy. Here is multiplied by 1 over xz. So we can eliminate x and z here, so that the y equals, and what we can do in this case is 1 over 6z is the same as 1 over x squared z squared. So we can rewrite it this way, and then we multiply these two things. We can rewrite it as y equals square root of 3x minus 2z divided by 6x third that squared. So y is going to equal to this. By the way, 99% of students are grinding for months, and most of them still are scoring so low. And you might be wondering why. And the reason is they're focused on the wrong things. And on May 24th, I'm hosting a free live SAT challenge where I will show you the one strategy that top scorers use and how to master it, even if you've never taken a test before. Seats are very limited, so hit the link in the description to register. Strategy number 2 that you need to know is looking for transitions. Well, not just in transition questions, but also in SAT reading questions as well. Transition words like however, moreover, or in contrast, they usually indicate shifts in the direction of the argument. So, in order to illustrate the strategy, let me show you how to use that exact same strategy in this SAT reading questions. So, to solve this question, you first need to analyze the overall structure of the text. So, it asks for that. So the passage starts off by stating a very general claim, saying movies from independent studios are often praised for being innovative. And then it is giving a specific example. Take, for instance, Moonlight 2016, which is made by A24 production company. And it's giving a specific example of Moonlight, and it's true that this movie shares themes with other coming-of-age films. But just because a movie explores familiar territory doesn't mean it can also be groundbreaking. So it's introducing a contrast with the transition word of but. And it is saying that it's giving a counterpoint. Despite movies might have familiar themes, it cannot still be groundbreaking. So, yeah, critics generally agree that Moonlight isn't the most conventional independent film, but independent films are rarely as formulaic as some people suggest. Then it's presenting the main argument, and the main argument here is independent films are not as formulaic as some people claim. And some independent productions, like the Florida Project, are remarkably distinctive. And finally, it's giving us another example of the Florida Project so that they can to support this argument. Now, let's look at the answer choices. Choice A, the text summarizes the plot of an independent film, then explains how the themes are developed in a later film by the same director. Well, A is wrong because the text doesn't even summarize any plots or discuss later films by the same director, so that's why A is wrong. Choice B, the text explains why some viewers appreciated a particular independent film, then considers why other viewers criticized it. Well, choice B is wrong because the text doesn't focus on explaining different viewers' perspectives, whether one sort of a viewer enjoyed it or the other type of a viewer didn't enjoy it. So it doesn't focus on explaining perspectives of different viewers. So that's why B is wrong. Choice C, the text describes audience's reaction to a movie from an independent studio, then presents some critics' reactions to that movie. Well, choice C is wrong because the text doesn't even describe audience reactions specifically. There's nothing about the reaction, so that's why C is wrong. Choice D, the text discusses a common praise of independent films, then argues that the praise is mostly warranted. Well, choice D is the correct answer because the reading passage discusses a very common phrase of independent films being innovative, and then it talks about that this phrase is generally deserved. Although some films might share familiar elements, so that's why D is right. So now let's move on to the next SAT question. So here we've got the equations and you need to find the value of A minus B. So let's solve it. So the first thing is we need to find the common denominator. So common denominator here is 4. So what you can do is you can multiply this one by 2. So let's solve that. A minus 12 over 4 plus 2b plus 30 divided by 4 is going to equal to minus 3. So we can add these things together. So that would be a plus 2b plus 18 divided by 4. And that's going to equal to negative 3. And we can multiply both sides by 4. And we get a plus 2b plus 18 equals negative 12. And from here we got a plus 2b equals negative 30. So here we've got this simplified version of the first equation, equation 1. And now let's simplify the second equation. So if you've got the second equation, and we can multiply this part by 2. So that would be 2a minus 24 divided by 4 minus b plus 15 divided by 4 equals 4. So from here, we can get 2a minus b minus 39 divided by 4, and that's going to equal to 4. And now we can multiply both sides by 4. So we get, so let me erase this, and we get 16. So yep, so that's going to equal to 16. And you can add 39 to both sides. So after that, we got 2a minus b equals 55. And now we have the second equation as well, the simplified version of it, equation number 2. And we also have the simplified version of equation 1 as well. Now we can use elimination by adding both of these equations. And yeah, that's in realized. So plus, let me get it from here. Yep, here discount it. So yep, we can add both of these here. I guess the best thing that we can do is that we can divide this part by 2, so that's going to be a lot easier here. So if we multiply it by 2, we will have 4 here, and here we will have negative 60, and it's better to subtract it. So let's do that. So that if 5b equals negative 105, so b equals, so that would be 21, negative 21. And we found b, now we should find a. Let's put it in this equation. So that will be 2a plus 40 plus 21 equals 55. So we can subtract 21 from both sides. So we get 2a equals 34 and a equals 17. So the question asks it for the value of a minus b. So that would be like this. So 17 minus 21. Double negatives equal to positive. So we have 38, and our answer is 38. And that's a free response question, so you can write 38 here. The SAT, the test that can make or break your college dreams. But have you ever noticed that everyone approached it completely differently? Some people treat it like a battle, others like a puzzle, and some, well, they barely care. And in the next 10 minutes, we're gonna break down every type of SAT test taker. Number 1, the strategist, the one who is playing 4D chess. This person isn't just studying. They've got spreadsheets, score trackers, and probably a custom-made study plan that breaks down exactly how many points they need to gain per section on the SAT. They don't just take practice tests. What they do is that they analyze them. Every wrong answer is a lesson for them. Every mistake is a step closer to perfection. Their biggest flex? They can predict the SAT's tricks before the SAT even tries them. But their downfall? If something unexpected happens on test day, like a weirdly worded question or a last-minute rule, then it might throw them off their entire game plan. Number 2, the memorizer, the human flash drive. This person believes in one thing: brute force learning. 1,000 vocab words memorized. Every math formula ever burned into their brain. But here's the problem. The SAT isn't a memory test, it's a thinking test. And the second a question doesn't look exactly like the ones they've drilled, panic. Pure, unfiltered panic. If the SAT plays nice and sticks to those familiar patterns, they're golden. If not, RIP. Number 3, the last-minute crammer. Oh, you know this guy, probably because you are this guy. Month of SAT prep? Nah, they will start studying a week before the test. Actually, scratch that. 2 days before, the night before, they are on their 3rd cup of coffee, watching so many SAT strategy videos, trying to absorb every single page of a 200-page book. Will it work? Sometimes. Will it always work? Absolutely not. But if they somehow pull a decent score out of this chaos, legendary. Number 4, the overthinker. The one who fights their own brain. They know the material and they know the answer, but do they trust themselves? Nope. They will pick an answer, stare at it, change it again, then they go back to the first one, only to realize later they had it right in the first time. And the biggest challenge? Beating their own self-doubt. Because let's be real, the SAT isn't just testing knowledge, it's testing how well you can handle pressure. And number 5, the I don't care test taker, the ultimate wild card. This person is here against their will. No studying, no prep, they might not have even brought a calculator. The entire SAT strategy, well, guess C when in doubt. Bubble in random answers to finish really early, take a nap. But here's the crazy part. Sometimes they do better than they expect. The SAT is weird like that. Luck is a real thing, but relying on luck? Not the best strategy. Number 6, the natural genius. The one everyone secretly hates. You ever meet someone who just gets it? No stress, no prep, they skim a couple of practice questions the night before, show up, and walk out with a 1550 plus like it was nothing. Do they deserve it? Maybe. Do we envy them? Absolutely. The thing is, even these people could get a perfect score if they studied, but why bother when they're already winning the game without trying? And number 7, the ancient test taker, the one who hears pencils down and panics. For them, the SAT isn't just a test, it's a horror movie. Their hands shake. Questions they knew perfectly yesterday suddenly look like they're written in another language. It's not about what they know, It's about how they feel in the moment. And if they let stress to get to them, it's game over. But the ones who learn to control their nerves, they turn anxiety into fuel. And that's when things get dangerous. Number 8, the trial and error test taker. The one who is in it for the long game. Some people take the SAT once and call it a day. Not this person though. They treat it like a science experiment. Test number 1, baseline score. Test number 2, slightly better. Test number 3, making progress. Test number 4, finally cracks the system. They don't give up, they adjust. And with every retake, they're getting closer to mastering the SAT once and for all. So which one are you? If you want to get a 1500 plus on the May SAT, then this video is all you need. And in order to get that score, you need to understand how to break down SAT questions step by step. And that's exactly what we will be doing in this video. So now let's start off with the math section. So here's the first question that we've got. Question number 1. The ratio P to Q is equivalent to the ratio 5 to 8. If E equals 12S, what's the value of Q in terms of S? So the first thing that we will write here is P over Q equals 5 over 8. In this case, let's write 12S instead of P. So let's rewrite that in here. 12S divided by Q equals 5 over 8. And now you need to find the value of Q in terms of S. So we can cross multiply right now. So that would be 5Q equals 96S. And now we can multiply both sides by 1 over 5. So we get rid of 5. So Q equals 96 divided by 5S. So that's our answer. Q equals 96S divided by 5. And choice D is the exact same thing. So now let's move on to question number 2. So here we've got an equation, and P and Q are positive constants. The sum of the solutions in this case is m multiplied by 3p plus q. So we need to find the value of n. So the first thing that you need to understand here is that the sum of solutions will be negative b over a. So in this case, a equals to 18, b equals negative 9p plus 3q. So let's solve that. So double negatives equal to positives. That's why we can write 9p plus 3q divided by a in this case is 18. So you can write 18 here. And the sum of solutions here, it says m multiplied by 3p plus q. And that's going to equal to 9p plus 3q divided by 18. And now we can cross multiply them. So you can cross multiply them. And that would be 9p plus 3q equals 18m 3p plus q. And in this case, we can rewrite it as 3 multiplied by 3p plus q. And that's going to equal to 18m multiplied by 3p plus q. And now what we can do is that we can divide 3p plus q from both sides. So let's divide 3p plus q from the first side and then on the other side 3p plus q. And now we can get rid of 3p plus q in both of the sides. And we get 3 equals 18m. And now we can divide 18, both sides divide 18, so we get 8 equals 3 over 18, which that's all equal to 1 over 6. So the right answer is 1 over 6. So now let's move on to the next question, and it's a reading question. So the question asks, what's the main purpose of the text? So now let's read the passage step by step. So the following text is adapted from that person's nonfiction book. So we already know this is nonfiction, and it might sound a little formal or philosophical, but you're not scared of those things. So let's move on to the Atlantic Monthly, an American magazine responding to critiques about the increasing mechanization of modern life. So the very important thing is that there were critiques about modern life becoming too mechanized, a little bit robotic. So suggests that the American dream is that every individual should be free to pursue efficiency and productivity as they see fit. So the Atlantic Monthly is saying that the American dream, it's all about freedom, and especially the freedom to be efficient and productive however you want. So let's move on. But philosophy persistently attends. So here we've got a contrast word, but, and that means a huge shift. And whenever you see buts, you know that something really important is gonna come. So the author is about to shift perspectives, not to enable what each practical person may desire. So she's saying philosophy isn't about helping people chase what they want day to day. It's not about helping them with their to-do list or productivity apps, but actually to draw attention to a sense of what truly matters. Yep. Basically, the philosophy's job is to make not make you more productive. It's actually make you ask what's actually meaningful, what actually matters. So now let's predict our answer before looking at the answer choices. So some people think that life is about being productive and efficient, but philosophy says, hold on, maybe life is all about doing things that matter. So here we've got two views, and there's a conflict or a contrast between those views. So the first view here is about freedom to pursue productivity, and the second view is all about questioning what is actually meaningful. Now let's move on to the answer choices. Choice A, it makes a claim about one of the fundamental tensions in modern society. We're literally talking about this tension. So freedom to chase efficiency versus thinking about what actually matters. So this one feels spot on, and let's keep going just to be sure. Choice B, it argues meaningful activity is a matter of philosophical reflection rather than practical utility. Well, this sounds tempting, but wait. Yes, the author does talk about philosophy focusing on meaningful activity. But what's the main purpose of the text? The text is not arguing in favor of just one side. It's actually showing both sides and contrasting both. So yeah, this is too narrow and kind of misses the bigger picture. So that's why B is wrong. Choice C, it implies that opinions regarding efficiency have shifted throughout history. Well, there's nothing about changing opinions over time. So this choice is irrelevant. Choice D, it describes differences in approaches to productivity between Americans and others. Well, who is others? There is no mention of any other country or group. This is a trap answer choice, so don't fall for it. So our correct answer is choice A. Everything that we've covered right now does not matter if you don't know how to master each question type on the digital SAT reading section. So in this video right here, I showed you exactly how to master each one of those. So make sure to watch that. I found a way to explode your SAT score faster than 99% of students. In fact, while the average student takes around 9 months to score 1500 plus, you could achieve it in a fraction of that time. Here's how. I want you to imagine this. You've been studying for the SAT for months. Hours in the library, practice tests, endless SAT prep, and yet when you get your scores back, you see the crashing number, 1310. That's the SAT score that feels like it's mocking you. Then you kind of ask yourself, what went wrong? So the first strategy I'm about to reveal is the exact same one of my students used to go from 560 to 760 on the SAT math. And I'm not making this up. This is real and this actually happened. And it's called the error log. Here's how it works. After each practice test, write down every mistake you made. What was the mistake? Why did you make it? Was it a calculation error, or was it a careless mistake, or was it a concept that you didn't understand? And then write down the solution, how you can avoid the same mistake next time. But here's the thing. This only works if you review your mistakes regularly, and if you don't go back and review them every single week. I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's pointless. All that time spent on those practice tests feels wasted, because without correction and reflection, you're just memorizing more mistakes. But here's the thing, you could write down every mistake, review it regularly, and still get stuck if you don't understand the real enemy. And that enemy, it's hiding in plain sight in the form of incorrect answer choices. Let me paint a picture for you. You're sitting and you're staring at two answer choices, and they both look really good. And you start second guessing yourself. You pick one and you realize later that it was the incorrect one. Here's why if this keeps happening, the SAT isn't just testing your knowledge, it's testing your ability to resist falling for those traps. And these traps are the incorrect answer choices, and they're designed to mess with your head. And until you learn how to spot them, you will keep falling for them over and over again, no matter how much you study. And that's why the next strategy is so critical. And this is where the error log connects to something even more powerful. And once you start analyzing your mistakes, you will notice a pattern. You're not just picking the wrong answers because you're just unsure. You are falling for specific types of traps. And today, I'm gonna reveal the 3 most common types of incorrect answer choices on the SAT. And I'm gonna be really honest with you, these traps are so sneaky. They trick even the smartest students. But once you understand them, you will never fall for them again. Think about it. What would it feel like to confidently eliminate every answer choice in seconds? And that is exactly what this strategy will do for you. But let me warn you, if you skip this, no amount of studying will help you. Those traps are that powerful. Now let's break them down one by one and pay close attention, because spotting these could be the difference between a 1300 and a 1500. So the first trap is what I call too extreme. These answer choices include words like always, never, or every. And they sound bold and they're almost always wrong. Why? Because the SAT loves nuance if an answer choice is absolute. So the second trap is off-topic answer choices. And finally, the contradiction trap. And these answer choices directly go against what is in the passage. Now, there is one more strategy that ties all of this together, and it is something that most SAT prep books never talk about. But it's the secret weapon that top scorers use to dominate the test. Every student dreams of that perfect SAT score, 1500, 1550, or 1600. But here's the hard truth. Most of you are stuck using the same strategies everyone else uses. You study the same materials, take the same practice tests, and expect different results. And guess what? The SAT knows this. That's why 99% of students never break past their limits. But the top 1%, they know something that the rest of you don't. They've mastered a strategy that's so powerful that it allows them to solve vocabulary-based questions faster than anyone else. And the craziest part is that you can copy the strategy right now and change the way you approach the test forever. Imagine this. You're sitting there staring at a vocabulary question. The sentence is confusing and the answer choices are all long, complicated words that you've barely heard of. And you kind of panic, you take a wild guess, and just like that, you've lost points that could have taken you over 1500 plus. And that is exactly what the SAT is designed to do. It throws in fancy sounding words to make you doubt yourself, to make you feel like you're not smart enough, like you've never studied enough. But what if I told you you don't need to know every word to crush these questions? And there is a shortcut, a way to decode these questions without wasting time or second guessing yourself. And that's where the next strategy comes in. Mastering the art of prefixes. SAT vocabulary questions aren't about knowing every single word, they are rather about understanding parts of some words. Prefixes like re, anti, and sub give you the meaning behind a lot of the words, even if you've never seen them. For example, if you see a word subordinate and it's used in the answer choices, and you ask yourself, what does it actually mean? And most students guess at this stage. But you know that sub means below or under. So subordinate means someone below in rank. Boom, you just unlocked the question in seconds. But here's the catch, most students don't even know where to start. They waste hours googling lists of prefixes that aren't even related to the SAT. And they try to memorize everything and they end up more confused than when they started. And that's why I've made it so simple for you. I've created a cheat sheet of the 32 most common SAT prefixes that you need to know. And these prefixes show up in nearly every SAT exam. And if you can master these, you'll spot the meaning of words faster than 99% of students. And the best part is, it's completely free. Just click the first link in the description, download it, and start using it today. But that's just the first step, because knowing prefixes is powerful. But I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, it's not enough. The SAT has another trap that even the smartest students fall for. And if you don't know how to handle it, you will lose precious points no matter how much you've studied. Now I'm gonna reveal the SAT's sneakiest strategy to make you pick the wrong answers. And it's something that not even so many tutors talk about. And once you understand it, you will never look at SAT questions the same way again. Let's face it, most SAT prep feels like throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that something sticks. You do endless SAT prep, you take endless practice tests, you memorize endless vocabulary lists, and maybe even pay for expensive tutors, yet somehow your score just refuses to increase. And I know how you're feeling. It's frustrating. And it's so demoralizing. And worst of all, it makes you doubt whether you're even capable of hitting that 1500 plus. And here's the kicker. Most SAT tutors won't help you fix this. They will tell you vague things like manage your time better. Just keep practicing. But let's be real. What does that even mean? How exactly are you supposed to manage your time better? How do you practice smarter, not harder? Fortunately, there is an easy fix to this. And if you're watching this, you're about to learn something that very few students even know about. In fact, I've never heard a single SAT tutor talk about this strategy before. But here is the best part. Once you start using it, you will be able to prepare for the SAT faster and more efficient than 99% of other students. Using Reddit. Now, you might be thinking, Reddit, isn't that just a place for memes and random discussions? And that's exactly why most students overlook this goldmine. What they don't really realize is that Reddit has SAT-focused communities where real students just like you share strategies, tips, and even real-time feedback on practice questions. But here's the problem. Most students either don't know these communities exist or they don't know how to use them the right way. They scroll aimlessly, wasting hours without getting any real value. So here's how you do it. The first thing you need to do is to join these 3 subreddits: RSAT, RSAT Prep, and RSAT Test Prep. These are some of the most active SAT communities on the internet, and they are filled with students who've already scored 1500 plus. Start by searching for posts that share details, study plans, or their SAT study materials. And these posts are written by students who've been in your shoes. And they often include resources, tips, and even the mistakes to avoid. Screenshot them, bookmark them, and these are your cheat codes. But don't stop there. The real power of Reddit is in the comments. If you're stuck at a specific question type, just post your question. You will get answers from people who've already mastered it, sometimes within minutes. And it's like having hundreds of free tutors at your own fingerprints. So you've made it to this part of the video. And maybe right now you're feeling one of 2 things. Either you're inspired and ready to tackle the SAT with everything you've learned so far, or you're still overwhelmed, unsure if this actually enough to get your dream SAT score. A lot of students waste their time when studying for the SAT, and usually they get stuck at the same score range. Fortunately, in just 30 days until the May SAT, you can increase your score by 100 or 150 or maybe even 200 points with the exact plan that I'm about to show you right now. But before we get into it, there's something I need to tell you. If you can't sit through this 15 or 20-minute video, if your attention span is that weak, then just give up. If you can't even focus for the next 15 or 20 minutes, how do you expect to get the SAT score that you want? How do you expect to do anything worthwhile in your life? So make this video full screen, lock in. You see, right now you are in a constant battle between your body and your mind. Your body, it really wants comfort, it really wants pleasure, and it wants the easy way out. It wants you to scroll TikTok instead of studying, instead of preparing for the SAT. It wants you to say, I will try to prepare for the SAT instead of actually doing it. And your body craves instant gratification, and that's why you keep failing on the SAT again and again. But your mind knows the truth. It really knows that if you just committed to 3 topics on Khan Academy every single day, then if you just shut up and did the work instead of making excuses, you would literally be unstoppable. So now we can move on to the next part of our video, which is more about SAT strategies. And the first most important thing that helps one student to improve their score by 200 points was using the SAT mistakes journal. And here we have an SAT question, and I will show you how you can fill in your SAT mistakes journal if you made this mistake, for example. So here we have a question. One of the two equations in a system of linear equations is given. The system has no solution. Which equation could be the second equation in this system? So let's say that you pick choice D, but it was incorrect. And the correct answer is A, for example, x equals 15y. And now you should identify your mistake. And you can write something like, I misunderstood what it means for a system of equations to have no solution. I thought any different equation would work, but I forgot no solution happens when the lines are parallel, same slope, different intercepts. Then you can write the explanation and the correct approach step by step. So the first step here is converting the given equation to slope-intercept form. 4x equals 60y minus 20. Divide that by 4, you get x equals 15, y minus 5. So this equation has the slope of 15 and y-intercept of minus 5. And you ask yourself, when does a system have no solutions? No solution means the two lines must be parallel, same slope, but different y-intercepts. Now let's check the answer choices. So in this case, choice A is x equals 15y, and it has a slope of 15, which is correct. And it has a slope of 0, and that means they are parallel because they have the same slope and different y-intercepts. Choice B, it has a slope of 60 and it has a y-intercept of 0. In order to B to be correct, it should have had the slope of 15. So B is wrong. Choice C, it has a slope of 20, which is not what we want. Choice D has a slope of 80, which is also not what we want. And then after that, you will write how you can avoid this mistake in the future. So in this case, it would be no solution equals parallel lines, same slope, different y-intercepts. And you could write one solution equals different slopes, infinite solutions equal exactly the same equation. So this passage has some great code words that we're gonna use to come up with our summary or guess for what the answer should be. So we have this passage about scientists developing a synthetic soil that can grow crops without traditional irrigation. The soil is mainly made of coconut coir and volcanic ash, and it retains moisture for extended periods. So that's cool, right? Then there is this contrast set up. We have Professor Chen, who is positive about it, saying the formula can be adjusted for different climates, making it versatile. But then this is the key part. You have Dr. Bennett, who claims the soil would be difficult to mass produce. That's a claim that we need to support. So when we're looking at the answer choices, we need something that specifically explains why mass production would be difficult. So let's go through each option and see what we've got. So choice A, urban farming initiatives are one of the largest potential markets for alternative grown mediums. So this is talking about who would buy the soil. It's not about making it. So this is classic SAT misdirection. They're talking about demand, but the claim is about production difficulties. So it's like if I said this car is hard to build and someone responded, lots of people wanna buy cars, that doesn't support my claim at all. So A is out. Choice B, the soil created by Chen and her team has a relatively light weight for its volume, making it potentially easy to ship to different locations. Well, wait a minute. This is actually saying something positive about the soil, that it's easy to ship. But Bennett's claim is negative, that it's difficult to mass produce. So this contradicts what we are looking for. It's like if I said this cake is hard to bake and someone said, but it's easy to carry around. That doesn't support my claim about baking difficulties. So B is definitely out. C, the gross supporting capabilities of the soil created by Chen and her team varied depending on the plant species used in the team's experiments. So this is talking about how well the soil performs with different plants. It's about the effectiveness of the soil after it's already being made, but it doesn't tell us anything about whether it's hard to produce in large quantities. It's like if I said this phone is hard to manufacture and someone said it works better for games than for calls. That's not relevant to my claim about manufacturing difficulties. So C is out too. To Z, the worldwide supply of coconut coir and volcanic ash is in high demand from the landscaping industries. So those substances would be difficult to source in significant quantities. Now we're getting somewhere. Looking at the key ingredients mentioned in the passage, composed mainly of coconut coir and volcanic ash. D is directly addressing these specific ingredients. And what does it say about them? They're in high demand from another industry, making them difficult to source in significant quantities. And this is exactly what we need, a concrete reason why mass production would be challenging. And if you can't get enough raw materials because they're already being used by someone else, that directly supports the claim that mass production would be difficult. So think about it like this. If I said this birthday cake would be hard to mass produce, and someone said the special French butter it requires is already being bought up by restaurants, so it's very hard to get in large quantities. That directly supports my claim. So what makes this so perfect is that it focuses on the specific materials mentioned in the passage and provides a direct obstacle to mass production, and the others are either about different aspects like marketing, performance, or actually contradict what we are looking for. So choice D basically says that what I expected it to say, and that is why it's correct. And always look at the option, look for an option that directly addresses that specific claim that you're trying to support. These strategies and tips are not really useful if you keep making the same mistakes over and over again. So make sure to watch this video right here where I explain the 5 mistakes that a lot of students make. So make sure to watch that. You see the students who dominate the SAT, those who score in the top 1%, get into the best universities and seem to breeze through the test like it's nothing. And you think they must be geniuses, right? The truth is, the SAT is a game, and right now, you're losing. But that's only because nobody has shown you the cheat codes. The secrets the highest scoring students know, but you don't. You see, the SAT is the ultimate standardized test game. Millions of students take it every year, each one trying to level up their score and unlock better opportunities. But unlike other games, mastering the SAT can give you real rewards, scholarships, Ivy League admissions, and a future with unlimited possibilities. And here's the thing, anyone can learn to win this game. Everyone starts at the same place, a score that needs improving. But the SAT isn't just about knowing math and English. It's about mastering a specific set of strategies, pacing, elimination, recognizing traps. It's no use being a 10 at algebra if your time management is a 2. So as I said before, there are a set of skills that are tested on the SAT, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can master one of the 25 skills that are tested on the SAT math section. And in this video, as you can see, there are 6 things that we are going to be covering. The first one being percent increase and decrease. Next up, we will cover simple and compound interest, and then we are going to cover percent of a number, percent change formula, word problems involving percentages, successive percentage changes. You might think that you know all of these, but in reality, in some of these, you might be actually at a 3 or 6 out of 10. So let's get started with percent increase and decrease. Firstly, you need to know the formula of percent increase, and that is new value minus old value divided by old value multiplied by 100%. Next up, you need to know percent decrease, and it is found by this formula, old value minus new value divided by old value multiplied by 100%. Here I've got an example question so that you can understand how to solve it in real life SAT questions. So it says the price of a laptop was originally $1,200. It increased to $1,500. What is the percent increase? So now let's try to solve it. So the new value here is $1,500, and that is the new price of this laptop. And old value here is $1,200. So now let's try to solve it. 1,500 minus 1,200 divided by 1,200 multiplied by 100 would be 300 divided by 1,200 multiplied by 100, and that would be 25%. And here are four more practice problems that you can solve so that you can master finding percent increase and decrease. So let me show you how to solve the first one. A shirt was $40, but is now $50. Find the percent increase. So in this case, the new value is $50 and the old value is $40. So 50 minus 40 would be 10. 10 divided by 40 multiplied by 100. And you can solve the other three as well if you want to. So the next up, you're going to cover simple and compound interest. Usually in SAT questions, they explicitly tell you whether the interest is simple or compound. And I will also explain everything about this one as well. So firstly, we need to understand the formula. So the formula of a simple interest is I equals P multiplied by R multiplied by T. And in a minute, I will show you what's P, what R means, and what T means here. In a compound interest, A equals P multiplied by 1 plus R over N in the power of NT. And in this case, P is the principal and R is the annual interest rate. And it's usually going to be in the decimal. And in this case, T is time in years and is the number of times compounded per year. So here's the question. You invest $1,000 in a savings account with an annual interest rate of $5 compounded annually. How much will you have after 3 years? So here's the solution. A equals 1,000 because the principal is $1,000 multiplied by 1 plus. So in this case, because it is at an annual interest rate of 5% and it's in compound interest, you're gonna 5% equals 0.05 in decimals, and in this case, n is just 1. So it's gonna be in the power of 3. So that would equal to 1,000 multiplied by 1.15. So that is gonna equal to 1,157.63, and that means that you will have that much money after 3 years. And here are 4 SAT problems regarding this topic. And if you want the PDF version of this, the link in the description, and it's completely free. Next up, you've got percent of a number. So firstly, the formula of it is this: parts equals percent multiplied by whole. So here we have an example question so that you can understand this formula. What is 30% of 200? And in this case, what we're going to do is that in this case, the whole number is 200 and percent here is 0.3, and that is going to equal to 60. So part here is equals 60. And here are 4 more problems so that you can understand it better. Next up, we've got word problems that involve percentages. So in this case, here's an example question that you can see. A store is offering a 25% discount on a $60 jacket. What is the sale price? So in this case, $60 is the original price of the jacket. So if you're going to multiply that by 0.25, and that is going to equal to 15. So $15 is the discount amount. And in this case, to find the sale price, what we need to do is to subtract 15 from 60. So 60 minus 15, and that is going to equal to the sales price, and which is 45 in this case. And here are 4 more problems if you want to solve it. So here we've got the next one, successive percentage changes. In order to understand the concept, here is the quick explanation. When a quantity changes by percentage more than once, the changes are compounded. So here's an example question. A jacket price increased by 10%, then decreased by 20%. What is the final price if the original was $100? So first increase is increase by 10%. So what we're going to do is like 100 multiplied by 1 plus 10 over 100, which is 1.1. So 100 multiplied by 1.1 equals 110. Next up, we've got the second decrease, and that is by 20%. So what we're going to do is 110 multiplied by 0.8, and that is going to equal to 88. So 88 is the final price if the original price was $100. And here are two more problems that you can see here, and this is something that is coming up a lot on the SAT. Acing SAT math section is actually useless if you're not going to do really well on the SAT English. So in this video right here, I explains the only SAT reading strategies that you need, the mistake that you should avoid, so make sure to watch it.
Do you want to crush the SAT and score 1500 plus in just 30 days? Yes, it's possible. I designed a very specific blueprint that only 1% of students use. And today, I'm going to reveal 4 powerful strategies that have helped hundreds of students just like you reach their SAT goals. Stick with me, because these strategies could change your entire approach to the test. Let's get started with the first one. Here's the dark secret that no one talks about. Inference questions are not about finding facts in the passage, and you've probably been doing it wrong the entire time. You may think the answer will be explicitly stated, but let me tell you, it won't be. But if you're still looking for facts in black and white, you're missing the entire point. Inference questions aren't about memorizing details. They are about understanding the deeper meaning behind the passage. So the answer will never be right there in front of you. Instead, you need to read between the lines. Now here's the secret sauce: context and tone. Inference questions are all about reading between the lines. What's the other implying without saying it outright? What's the tone? What's the bigger picture? To show you how to apply this in real time, let's look at an actual question. So here we have a socioeconomic panel, which is SOEP, and it's a study in Germany that surveys 12,000 individuals over a long period of time. So the purpose of it is to observe long-term trends in childhood development. So this requires longitudinal methods, which means tracking the same group of people over a long time. And this study needs extensive financial support due to its long-term nature. And the key point is that longitudinal methods provide valuable insights into causal relationships, cause and effects. The passage then contrasts this SOEP's method with a transportation study, a study that looks at how many people use a city's public transportation system per day. This study is not about causation, just counting people. So the passage implies that those longitudinal methods are not needed for studies like the transportation one, because it doesn't deal with causal relationships. So now let's talk about what the passage is kind of implying. So longitudinal methods are important when you're studying causal relationships, for example, how childhood development trends change over time. However, when you're counting or tracking numbers, like in a transportation study, longitudinal methods aren't really necessary. So you don't need to track the same people over time. And kind of an inference that I predicted is that the transportation study will be kind of less expensive, because it doesn't really require the same long-term tracking and complex methodology as SOEP. So here's kind of a simple equation-style breakdown that illustrates the relationship between the methods and costs described in the passage. So here's the equation: cost of study equals method complexity multiplied by time frame multiplied by resource needed. Now let's apply this to the two studies mentioned. For SOEP, which is childhood development study, method complexity is kind of high because it's longitudinal and it tracks individuals over time. So The time frame is long because it requires years of data collection from the same individuals. And the resources needed are extensive because we need extensive financial support, resource staff, and etc. So the cost of SOEP is high because all these factors are at a higher level. For the transportation study, method complexity is low because simply counting the number of people using transportation is not a long-term tracking. So a time frame is also short because it doesn't need years of data. Just a snapshot over a short period is enough. Resource needed is minimal because it only requires basic counting, less research, and data management. So the cost of transportational study is low because the methodology and resource needed are much simpler. So the sentence in the passage ends with "and so blank." Now we need to choose the best inference, the answer that kind of best follows from the information in the passage. Let's look at answer choices. Choice A. The expense of SOEP is likely greater than the cost of longitudinal studies of transportation. So let's analyze this one. So this answer talks about comparing the expense of SOEP and transportation studies. So this passage does mention SOP needs extensive financial support, but it also contrasts with that simpler method needed for a transportation study. However, this answer is slightly off because it talks about longitudinal studies of transportation, which doesn't quite fit the passage comparison, since transportational studies don't require longitudinal studies. So our conclusion is that this answer is not the best fit because it's too focused on comparing types of studies, which isn't the main idea. Choice B. Conclusions drawn from SOEP are likely to be more authoritative than those from the transportation study. So this answer kind of implying that conclusions from SOEP will be stronger or more reliable because of its longitudinal nature. However, the passage doesn't directly discuss the quality of conclusions from the studies. It focuses more on the methodology and the cost involved, while longitudinal studies kind of provide causal insights. The passage doesn't specifically say that SOEP will give better conclusions than a transportation study. So this answer doesn't align with the main focus of the passage. Choice C. The passage emphasizes the appropriateness of different methods for different types of studies, longitudinal methods for SOP study of childhood development, which kind of requires causal insights, and a simpler methods for the transportation study, which kind of needs just the counts. So answer C correctly captures the difference in suitability, noting that longitudinal methods are suitable for some studies like childhood development, but unnecessary for others like transportation. So you might be thinking the passage isn't actually using the word suitability. But although the passage doesn't directly use the word suitability, but it does imply that by contrasting when longitudinal methods are needed versus when they're unnecessary. So let's break down the relevant parts. Purpose of SOEP in longitudinal methods. So SOEP needs extensive financial support, but this method provides valuable insights into causal relationships. So this implies that longitudinal methods are specifically chosen for causal studies like SOEP, which deals with childhood development. And if we contrast this to a transportation study, the passage then says when questions of causation are irrelevant, as in a transportation study, longitudinal methods are unnecessary. So this line hints at suitability by indicating that longitudinal methods aren't needed for studies like transportation, which don't require long-term data or causal insights. So since longitudinal methods are described as necessary for causal insights and unnecessary for simpler studies like transportation, we can infer that longitudinal methods are more suited to studies needing causal analysis like childhood development and less suited to studies that don't require it, like transportation. Choice D. The success of the transportation study likely requires significantly less financial outlay than that needed for SOEP, while D is kind of logical based on the cost details provided. It shifts focus on the expense comparison. So the passage's main focus is on the appropriateness of those methods, not solely on the costs. If you want, you can also join a free SAT community where you can access to my free course and free webinars that I host. Let me guess, you've been frustrated with main idea questions. They kind of seem impossible, right? Well, what if I told you that by recognizing a single pattern in the structure of a passage, you can actually nail those main idea questions every single time? And no, it's not about memorizing every detail. It's more about understanding how authors structure their content or passage. If you can spot this one key element, main idea questions will be like a walk in the park. So you might be thinking, why structure matters? SAT reading isn't random. It's designed to follow a pattern. Once you recognize that pattern, you will save time and improve accuracy on every single question. Let's talk about the three main structures you will encounter and how you can use them to crush those questions. The most common structure, introduction, and then the key takeaway. The author introduces the topic or problem in the beginning, but the main idea comes at the end, and you will find this especially in passages on more scientific topics like climate change or etc. The last sentences usually hold the new, groundbreaking information. That's your main idea. Structure number 2. Next, we have a continuous narrative. The author takes you on a journey, developing one idea through the passage. The main idea here is about understanding the overall points the author is building throughout. This is a classic structure for history and science passages. You will see the old understanding replaced by a new one. A passage might start by saying, scientists use it to think X, but now we know why. The key to unlocking the main idea. What changed? What's the new information that replaces the old understanding? But I've seen so many students who just struggle to spot them. So that's why I created 3 ways to spot them. So the first way is look at the first few sentences. Is it a problem being introduced or a new discovery? Second, pay attention to the end of the passage. That's where the takeaway often lives, but not all the time. Third way, follow the rhythm. Does the passage follow a journey or build on one idea? And this is how you go from confused to confident in your SAT reading section, by knowing exactly what you're looking for. And you have to start using these techniques and watch how much more manageable SAT reading becomes. And if you found this strategy helpful, make sure you subscribe for more SAT tips. Strategy number 3. So first, before telling what the strategy is, I want to show you how to use it in this particular question. So here we have a quadratic equation and it only has one solution. So we need to find the value of r. First off, let's rewrite the equation in standard quadratic form. 4x squared minus 32x plus 19 minus r equals 0. So now we've got our quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is 4, b is minus 32, and c is 19 minus r. So far so good, right? But here's where the magic happens. Step number 2, the discriminant method. To know when there is exactly one real solution, we use the discriminant from the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is this, so the discriminant is the part under the square root. B squared minus 4ac equals 0. Now let's apply this, and here we get minus 32 squared minus 4 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 19 minus r equals 0. And if we simplify that, we get 1024 minus 16 multiplied by 19 minus r equals 0. So let's distribute the minus 16. So here we get 720 plus 16r equals 0. So now let's isolate r. And we get r minus 45. So there you have it. R equals minus 45. Now we know that when r equals minus 45, the quadratic equation will have exactly one real solution. Pretty fast and straightforward, right? Let's move on to the fourth strategy. You're about to master digital SAT vocab questions with a strategy so simple, it will leave you wondering why you didn't think of it first. But trust me, this approach works, and it's exactly how you can start seeing massive improvements on your SAT vocab scores in no time. So the first thing that you need to do is to stop overcomplicating it. Instead of cramming 100 plus new words every single day, focus on mastering how 10 of these words work within sentences. This way, when you're faced with tricky vocab questions, you won't need to guess the definition. You will already know what the word means based on its context. Here's the trick that really works: prefixes. These little parts of words can unlock a ton of meaning. And when you learn 32 prefixes needed for the SAT, you will start recognizing them in almost every single passage. This is a game changer, trust me. To make it even easier for you, I've put together a PDF of the 32 prefixes you need to know for the SAT. The link is in the description and it's completely free. And you can start using these prefixes right away to help break down words you will see on test day. But hey, if you think this strategy alone will solve all your vocab problems, you're completely wrong. And in the next video, I broke down 3 more strategies that will give you even more tools to master SAT vocab questions. So make sure to check it right after this one.
If you're taking the March SAT, listen up, because this video is your golden ticket. The 10 hardest SAT prediction questions, the ones that rack so many students every single year. And I spent the last 3 months analyzing the last 3 years SAT data, tracking every single SAT trend, decoding College Board updates. And the best part is that I've put together a free worksheet with every single strategy that you need. In 1954, something happens that changed the world forever. A man named Dr. Jonas Salk developed the first polio vaccine, a single discovery, a single breakthrough. Millions of lives were saved. But here's the real question. How do we measure the impact of this man's work? Medical researchers argue that Salk's contribution to eradicating polio is the vaccine's mass immunization campaigns and the dramatic collapse of polio cases worldwide. So let's break this down step by step. So the answer is right in front of you. So step number 1 is thinking before you look. So first, pause, take a deep breath. What's the passage really saying? So Jonas Salk made a vaccine. That vaccine didn't just help. It wiped polio off the map in most of the world. And his contribution is obviously connected to this massive success. Now, before even looking at the answer choices, now I want you to ask yourself, well, is Salk's contribution irrelevant, criticized, or hidden? Think about this. No, it's not clear as day. So, step number 2 is eliminating the nonsense answer choices. Look at the options. Some of them are ridiculous. And let's have a look at choice A, irrelevant to. Are you joking? The vaccine saved millions of lives. Of course, his contribution is relevant. So let's eliminate choice A. Choice B, criticized by. Criticized? Who's even criticizing a man who literally helped eradicate a disease? So this choice is wrong. Choice D, obscured by. Obscured? No, his work isn't hidden. It's in the history books, right? So we can eliminate choice D as well. Now, if you have a look at choice B, evident in, bingo. South's contribution is clearly seen in the success of the vaccine. The streets of Manhattan are a war zone. Not for humans, and no. For pigeons, for rats, for every creature that is desperately fighting for the survival in a city that never sleeps. You think New York is just buildings and people? That's completely wrong. It's an ecosystem, a battlefield. Every single square inch of the space is contested. The competition is so brutal. And in the middle of this chaotic struggle, we have one crucial word, which is claim. What does it even mean? It's not some legal document or it's not some peaceful negotiation. No one is politely stepping aside and saying, "Oh, excuse me, Mr. Rat, this spot is yours." No. It's the fight, it's survival, it's about who gets to stay and who gets pushed out. So, which answer choice captures this sort of ruthless energy? Let's kind of break them down. So, starting with choice A, declare. Declare ownership of. It sounds really fancy, right? Like a king sitting on a throne saying, "I declare this land mine." But we're not talking about royalty. We're talking about rats and pigeons battling for scraps. So this choice is wrong. Choice B, demands compensation for. What? Who's getting paid? Like, a rat isn't walking into a court saying, "I demand financial compensation." No, it's not saying that. So we can literally eliminate this choice as well. Now let's have a look at choice C, reserve exclusively for. This choice looks like they are booking an Airbnb reserved from this ledge from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. No, this is not a reservation system, so this choice is wrong. Now let's have a look at choice D, compete to obtain. Yes. This is the war. This is competition. This is the very essence of what's happening on these streets. Every bird, every rodent is fighting for its place, for its food, for its survival. And this is the correct answer choice. So the final answer is choice D, compete to obtain. If you don't get this prediction question right, you will stay stuck and you will keep getting the same mediocre scores, the same frustrating results, the same feeling of, why am I not improving? So let me show you how to solve this SAT prediction question. So step number 1 is looking at the question again slowly. So we are not just finding an answer. What we are doing is that we are finding the answer. So let's read it again. Feel it. What's this actually asking? So it's not asking for a fact, and it's asking for a function of what the underlined sentence is, and it's asking what the underlined sentence is doing in the passage. So the second step is reading the passage, but this time with awareness. So when studying the behavior of wild wolves in Yellowstone National Park, researchers observed a striking change in pack dynamics after the reintroduction of wolves to the area. Shifting from their solitary hunting practices to highly organized cooperative hunting strategies, the wolves began to take down larger prey with greater efficiency. This behavior, influenced by environmental pressures, allowed the wolves to survive in an ecosystem that previously struggled with a lack of predators. Do you see it? The first sentence sets up the big change. The underlying sentence zooms in on that event. And the last sentence explains why it matters. And that middle sentence is elaborating. It's giving the details that make the change real. So the next step is predicting before looking at the answer choices. And I will tell you this right now. Smart test takers predict first. And if you just jump to the answer choices, you get trapped. So your brain latches onto whatever sounds real good in answer choices. But if you already know what you're looking for, then you can smell the right answer. What is our prediction then? So the underlined sentence is adding detail to the previous one. It's giving a clear picture of the change in hunting strategies. So the next step is destroying the wrong answer choices. So let's go one by one. Choice A, it elaborates on the previous sentence statements about a change in the wolf's hunting strategies. Oh, this matches our prediction exactly. Choice B, it provides information about how the ecosystem evolved in support of a claim about wolf behavior advanced in the following sentence. Nope, this isn't about the ecosystem evolving. That's just background info in the last sentence. Choice C, it recounts a moment in the wolf's adaptation process that ensured the survival of their species, which is summarized in the following sentence. It sounds a little fancy but strong. The sentence isn't about a moment. It's just explaining the behavior. Choice D. It presents evidence that challenges the previous sentence characterization of wolf pack dynamics. What? There is no contradiction. The sentence is supporting the first one, not challenging it. So the final step is locking in the answer. So the final correct answer choice is choice A. That's it. That's how you dominate this type of SAT question. Now, if you're still hesitating, if you're still doubting yourself, ask yourself this. Are you actually applying these steps when you practice? Or are you just skimming the answer choices and hoping for the best? This is an SAT structure question, and you know what that means. They're not asking for what the passage says. They're asking how is this passage built. Think of it like architecture, like dissecting a blueprint. The first line, a question, and it pulls you in. It makes you wonder, why do sunflowers tilt but oaks don't? Then the passage offers a theory, a possible answer. It introduces oxen, it explains the difference, it tells us why one plant moves and the other stays still. So what's the structure here? It's question, then answer. So that's it. Simple, direct, and clean. Now, let's destroy the wrong answer choices one by one. Choice A, the text compares the growth patterns of two plant species, then explains how those patterns are affected by environmental changes. No. The passage does compare two plants, sure, but where is the part about environmental changes? Nowhere, not a single mention. So choice A is wrong. Choice B, the text presents a theory about two species, then discusses facts that weaken the theory. Weaken the theory? Where? The whole passage supports the theory. It's not questioning it, so we can eliminate choice B as well. Choice C, the text poses a question about two species, then presents a possible answer. Yes. That's exactly what happens. Keep this one. Now choice C. The text describes a behavior shared by two species, then discusses other behaviors shared by them. Shared behaviors? No, these two plants are so different. One moves, one doesn't. So this choice is completely wrong. The correct answer is choice C because it's simple. And that is how you analyze SAT structure questions. You break it down, you look at the blueprint, and you choose the answer that actually fits, not the one that just sounds smart. Now, go apply this method in every SAT structure question that you see and watch how easy those questions are going to become. So the first step is reading the question. Here is the question. Which choice best states the main purpose of the text? Pause right here. This is where most people mess up. Main purpose questions are not about random details. They are about one thing. Why did the author write this? Think of it like a text from a friend. What are they really trying to say? What is their main point? That's what we need to figure out. So the next step is reading the text. Popular systems are that solar panels and wind turbines dominate renewable energy discussions because they've changed global markets. Lesser known systems are the ones that says wave energy converters could also be crucial in fighting climate change. And a key point here is that unlike solar and wind, wave energy is still untapped, but it has huge potential for large-scale energy production. So the next step number 3, is predicting the answer choice. Alright, so let's break this down. The first part, which is solar and wind energy, they're already famous. They are the celebrities of renewable energy. And the second part talks about wave energy, the underrated underdog. But scientists think it could be huge. The author isn't listing some problems. They're not saying wave energy is better than solar and wind. They're just shining a spotlight on wave energy's potential. So what is our prediction? Our prediction is that the passage is explaining why wave energy is an exciting and promising field in renewable energy research. So the next step number 4, is analyzing the answer choices. Now let's go full on these 4 answer choices. Choice A, to describe the technological challenges faced by wave energy systems during development. Nope, the passage never talks about problems or struggles. If this were a boxing match, this option wouldn't even be in the ring. So we can eliminate this choice. Choice B, to present reasons why renewable energy researchers consider wave energy systems to be promising. Yes, this is exactly what we predicted, and the passage hypes up wave energy's potential and says why scientists are excited about it. So let's keep this choice locked in. So choice C, to compare the efficiency of wave energy systems with that of solar and wind energy. Nah, there is no wave energy is 27% more powerful. Like, nonsense here. The passage isn't comparing efficiency. It's just explaining wave's energy's potential. And we can eliminate this choice. Choice D, to argue that wave energy systems are more effective at reducing emissions than solar or wind energy. Absolutely not. The passage isn't making an argument. No one is saying wave energy is the champion of renewables. So we can eliminate this choice as well. So the next step number 5, is deciding on the final answers. So the best choice here is choice B, to present reasons why renewable energy researchers consider wave energy systems to be promising. Now, I want to give you some tips to approach these types of questions. So the first tip is think big picture. Don't get lost in these small details. Instead, zoom out. Ask, why did the author write this? Step number 1, reading the text carefully. The text is about a study where Dr. Marcus Reyes is looking at how exercise affects the release of endorphins, the feel-good chemicals in your brain. And here's the key part. Low-intensity cycling doesn't really do much for endorphins. High-intensive cycling, boom, endorphins spike. But here's the most important part. Heart rates didn't go past a certain level. So Dr. Reyes didn't think the increase in endorphins came from physical strain. Instead, she thinks it was the intensity of the exercise that caused the endorphins to release more. So the heart rate finding is important because it helps Dr. Reyes figure out why the endorphins were increased. Without it, he might have thought that increased endorphins were just from physical strain. Now, the next step is predicting our answer choice. Alright, so let's predict. Here's what we need to know. The heart rate not going past a certain level is super important because it rules out that the endorphins were released just from physical effort. And this means the heart rate finding is crucial because it shows the increase in endorphins was due to intensity and not the physical effort, which, let's be honest, we all know is sometimes overrated, right? So based on this, I predict the answer is going to have something to do with ruling out an alternative explanation for the endorphin increase. So the next step, step number 3, is analyzing the answer choices. Now let's go through each answer choice really carefully. And we have to be like kind of you're picking the best ice cream flavor from the freezer. You always choose the right one, right? Right. So choice A, it provided a preliminary evidence that endorphin levels increase during high intensity cycling. Nope, the passage already told us the endorphins increase during high intensity cycling. The heart rate finding isn't giving us that information. It's telling us why the increase happened. So we can literally eliminate this choice. Choice B, it suggested that changes in endorphin levels, endorphin release may occur during both high and low intensity exercise. Oh no. This isn't what the passage is saying. It doesn't suggest that low intensity exercise causes endorphin increases. It's focusing on high intensity exercise. So we can delete this one too. So choice C, it ruled out a potential alternative explanation for the increase in endorphin levels during high intensity cycling. Bingo, this is exactly what the passage is saying. The heart rate didn't go past a certain level, so the increase in endorphins couldn't be from physical strain, as Dr. Reyes was able to rule that out, and this is the right answer. Choice D, it clarified that endorphin release during exercise depended on participants' individual fitness levels. Nope. We didn't talk about individual fitness levels in the passage. The study didn't focus on that at all. We can toss this one away. So the next step is deciding on the final answer. And the correct answer choice is choice C. It ruled out an alternative explanation for why the endorphins increase during high intensity cycling. The heart rate finding also helped it explain that it was the intensity, not the strain, that caused that increase. I genuinely need to show you something that could completely change your SAT score. And if you skip this, you're making a huge mistake, and I will show you 4 powerful strategies to ace them. So let's get into it. So as you can see on the screen, there are 4 strategies you need to master in order to get your desired score. And there are also SAT questions that I've created so that you can understand how to apply it in a lot of the SAT questions. So here's the strategy number 1, which is understanding the skeptic's viewpoint. And here we've got a question. You can pause this video now and solve it on your own first. So without further ado, let's begin. Based on the text, the author of text 2 would most likely want to know if Whitman took steps to preclude which potential objection to the finding described in text 1. So firstly, let's read text number 1. So here you have one nation, and it's an indigenous group. It has used storytelling for 2 things: cultural preservation and education. They also launched a program. Then there's a study by some researcher. And they're telling that storytelling was better on comprehension assessment than a standard curriculum. So in short, text 1 claims that storytelling in education leads to better comprehension scores. Like, storytelling equals better comprehension, and that's it. No more confusion. Now let's move on to text number 2. While studies on storytelling while they're really good, there's actually a negative thing, which is this: there are flaws in research design. And many of these studies lack diverse samples, so that's another disadvantage. And they also fail to account for pre-existing differences in students' ability, and they do not include proper control groups. And this is the third disadvantage, which is not proper control groups. And that's why it's difficult to determine whether storytelling itself is responsible for improved comprehension scores. So in short, text 2 says, yes, storytelling is good, but there are research flaws. Like it says there are lack of samples, no control groups, and failure to account for pre-existing differences. We can infer that we can say it as text 2 is skeptical about whether storytelling is actually the cause of improved comprehension scores, or maybe some other factors might explain that difference. So now we know it. Let's move on to answer choices. Choice A: the students would have demonstrated even greater improvement if storytelling techniques had been used for a longer period. I mean, this is irrelevant because we don't care about time, whether it's short or long. We don't care about that, so that's why A is wrong. Choice B: the students would have performed worse on comprehension assessments if the study sample size had been smaller. Sample size matters, but the primary concern is not a sample size. It's more of a causation. That's why it's not a main concern for us. So that's why B is also wrong. Choice C: the students would have shown improved comprehension scores regardless of whether storytelling was used. Well, this is exactly what we thought, because there are no control groups and they don't know whether they have knowledge or not. They didn't assess the students' ability initially. That's why this choice is correct. Now let's move on to choice D. The students would have responded to storytelling differently if they had not known they were part of the study. I guess it might be true according to my brain, but in the text, there's nothing about it. That's why choice B is wrong. So that's why the final answer is choice C. And the strategy was understanding the skeptic's viewpoint, and you might not have understand it clearly. And I will try my best to understand it. I will try my best to explain it to you. So the second passage here is almost challenging or criticizing the first passage. And your job is to identify the main concern being raised because text 2 is criticizing it. That's what the viewpoint of a skeptic is. Here, skeptic is text number 2. Another thing that a lot of students miss is that they don't really look for causal relationships. For example, X will cause Y. And this is something that can explain the result of a study or something else. Which is also something that you need to understand. Now let's move on to strategy number 2, which is paying attention to shifts in the passages. And I've seen this a ton of time being used on SAT questions. And here's the SAT question. You can pause the video now and you can solve it on your own first. So based on the text, the author would most likely agree with which statement about student engagement. So now let's read the text. In the past decade, online education platforms have expanded rapidly, with many institutions offering video-based courses. A widely accepted model in educational research suggests that student engagement is primarily determined by course format. Interactive courses, discussion-based or problem-solving activities lead to higher engagements than passive lecture-based courses. So they were telling you that interactive courses will lead to higher engagement than like passive lecture-based courses. However, here you have a shift in our passage. So that's the thing that I wanted to talk about. However, nevertheless, and sometimes you also have to look for some linking words like therefore, as a result, because they also say something important. A study conducted by researchers at Global Ed found that while interactivity played a role, other factors such as the quality of course materials and students' personal motivation also significantly influence engagement levels. So it's saying that it was not just because it was an interactive course, it was not just because of those discussion-based and problem-solving activities, but it was because of the quality of course materials like those worksheets and PDFs, and the students' personal motivation also played a crucial role in the engagement level. So now let's look at choices. It can explain some, but not all the differences in engagement levels across students. Well, yes, that's true because course format plays a role. That is true, but there are also some factors that matter, and it's saying the exact same thing. Well, the passage never said course format is irrelevant. It just says it's one of several factors. And this choice is too extreme. That's why we can eliminate choice B. Now let's move on to choice C. It's often affected by course format, but not for the reasons assumed by the widely accepted model. Well, this is tricky because the passage does challenge for the model, but it doesn't say the reasons for engagements are completely different. It just adds more factors, and this is especially right, but it's kind of the best because, as I said, it doesn't say the reasons are completely different, but it says there are more factors. That's why C is wrong. Choice D, it constrains how much time students spend on coursework, but not how engaged they are. Well, the passage is about engagement. It's not about time spent. That's why we can eliminate choice D results. So the final answer is choice A. And as I said, the strategy, the tip is paying attention to shift in the passage. For example, when it challenges, like usually in the passage, there will be the last sentences that will challenge a widely accepted idea that was discussed in the first sentence. And you should definitely look at these words like however, but, nevertheless, and etc. Now let's move on to strategy number 3, which is always breaking the passage into different parts. And this is so crucial. And if you do this right, you can ace your exam. So here we have a transition question that I've created. So you can pause the video right now and you can solve it on your own first, and you can play the video and watch my explanation. So this is a transition question, and you need to understand that our job here is to understand the logical flow of the passage here. And we should also identify the relationship between the ideas in this passage. So let's read it. In 1961, NASA launched its first program. As part of the program, the spacecraft was first positioned onto a launch pad. The engines were ignited, generating massive thrust. Finally, the rocket ascended into the sky, leaving Earth's atmosphere. So, firstly, it was positioned on the launch pad. Then, engines were ignited, and then the rocket launched into the sky. So, in this case, there is a sequence of events. First this, then this, and then finally, that's something else happened. So that means you're looking for a transition word that shows a step-by-step progression. So I believe that we need a phrase that should show the next step in a sequence. Now let's move on to answer choices. A, for example, it's used to introduce an example, but we're not giving an example here. You are describing steps in a sequence. That's why choice A is wrong. Choice B, next. Well, yeah, this fits perfectly because we are describing events in a sequenced order. And the spacecraft was positioned, then the engines were ignited. So it makes sense, right? That's why choice B is the correct answer choice. But still, let's move on to other choices. Similarly is used to compare two things in a positive way. And if you're not making a comparison here, you're just showing progression. That's why choice C is also wrong. In contrast, it uses to show difference or opposition, and it's not something that we want here. So that's why D is also wrong. The main thing, and this is a kind of an easy example of transition question, but if you're gonna solve hard transition questions, then you need to recognize three types of transitions. So the first category is addition, which includes moreover, additionally, and etc. And they are used to add a new idea. And then the next type, the second type of transition type is sequence, which is next, then, firstly, lastly, finally. And they show order in a process or sequence. And next up, you have contrast. However, on the other hand, like so many of them, and shows difference. Now let's move on to the next strategy, which is checking for direct evidence. And you will understand how to apply it in a lot of SAT questions when we kind of move on to this SAT question. You can pause the video right now. You can solve it on your own, especially if you're taking the exam. These questions are going to be so useful. Yep. So it asks for information detect that supports which statement about historical climate data. So let's read the passage first. So they analyze historical climate data. So they started talking about it. Information gathered from ice cores, tree rings, and etc. to explore long-term patterns of temperature change. That's also something that is important. Although this method provides valuable insights such as revealing past periods of extreme warming, so this method is good. Well, it shows past periods of extreme warming, but it's not widely adopted. Like a lot of people don't use it, right? Because the data is often incomplete, and now they're telling a reason why a lot of people don't use that historical climate data. A challenge that current climate modeling techniques struggle to overcome. Okay. So I guess my prediction here is that the passage tells that this data, historical climate data, can provide unique insights, but many people don't use it, right? Because of incompleteness. Now let's go to answer choices. Choice A, it may provide insight that other types of climate data cannot. We know that it can reveal past warming trends, meaning it provides unique insights. So let's keep choice A. Choice B. Choice B. It has thus far proved valuable mainly to researchers studying glacial movements. Well, there is nothing about glacial movements. So we can literally eliminate choice B easily. Next up, we have choice C. It may be underused because of its controversial status among scientists. This is a little bit of a tricky answer choice, and that's a trap answer choice. Why? Because the passage says they are underused. Not a lot of people use it because of incompleteness. It's not because of controversy, and we don't know whether whether there is controversy or not. That's why you can eliminate choice C as well. Now let's move on to choice D. It tends to be much more fragmented than other types of climate data of comparable age. We know that there is incompleteness in that data type, but the passage doesn't compare it to other climate data explicitly. That's why you can eliminate D as well. So the best choice here is choice A. It may provide insight that other types of climate data cannot. So my best tip is be cautious of extreme or specific answer choices. For example, if an answer choice adds an extra detail that is not in the passage, well, you can understand that it's probably wrong. All of these 4 strategies don't matter if you keep making the same mistakes that you're doing over and over and over again. And that's why I made this video right here where I shared 5 major mistakes that a lot of people are making. This is what you think a high score on the SAT is. But this is what getting a 1500 plus looks like. And in this video, I'm gonna show you the SAT iceberg theory and the 5 strategies that have helped hundreds of students increase their SAT scores. Let's start with what everyone knows, the visible part of the SAT prep. This is the stuff you see on the surface. Practice tests, vocabulary drills, review books. Don't get me wrong, these are important. They are the starting point of any SAT prep journey. This is where things get really interesting. Here's what 99% of students do. They focus on endlessly solving practice tests, thinking that repetition alone will lead to success. And they believe that more tests they complete, the closer they are to get to their dream score. But here's the harsh reality. If you're like 99% of students, you're setting yourself up for failure every single day. Think about it. The SAT is taken by millions of students every single year, and the average score is just around 1050. One of the best pieces of SAT advice I can ever give you is this. Don't study harder, study smarter by mastering pattern recognition. So you may be thinking, what do I mean by pattern recognition? The SAT isn't about testing how smart you are. It's all about how well you can recognize repeated traps and tricks. For example, in the reading section, the test makers are experts at writing trap answer choices, answers that kind of sound correct because they borrow phrases straight from the passage. But here's the thing, they are designed to distract you. The correct answers are always evidence-based, and once you learn how to spot these traps, you can definitely increase your accuracy on the SAT dramatically. But this isn't just about reading traps. There's one advanced concept the top 1% of students use, and it's called answer elimination mastery. Now, what is answer elimination mastery? It's not about guessing blindly when you are unsure of the answer. It's all about actively answering or identifying patterns in wrong answer choices. For example, in the reading section, words like always or never in reading answer choices are almost always wrong. And in math, overly complex answers often signal a mistake that can distract you. And this allows you to narrow down your choices with surgical precision. And even if when the question seems impossible at first glance. But let me warn you, answer elimination mastery is only the first level of the iceberg. It's so powerful, but it's not enough to guarantee you'll reach a top score. But if you want to separate yourself even further, you need to dive one level deeper. Here's what many students don't know about time optimization. Most students don't even realize that the SAT is just as much a test of time management as it's a test of skills. Think about this. Would you spend 5 minutes on easy questions worth the same points as a hard one? Of course not. And yet, most students waste precious time on straightforward questions, leaving themselves scrambling to finish the hard ones at the end of the test. The 1% of test takers do something completely different. They optimize their time by organizing or strategically banking it for the tougher questions. For example, on the math section, the first 10 questions are often the easiest ones. And I highly recommend you to not to spend more than 45 seconds per question here. That saved time becomes your secret weapon when you let or hit the trickier problems later on. This one adjustment alone can make a huge difference in your score. So now we've covered some powerful strategies, but I want to show you one more method, a method so effective you can literally start using it to see instant results. And it's called QTPA, Question Text Predicts and Answer Choices. Let me show you how it works. The first part, question. Start by carefully reading and underlining what the question is asking. Most students rush through the step, but slowing down here is so critical. Part 2, text. Next, go directly to the relevant part of the passage or problem. The third part, predicting. Before even you look at the answer choices, predict what the correct answer might look like. This step forces your brain to engage with the material and eliminates second guessing. Next up, we have answer choices. Compare your prediction to the answer choices. Use elimination mastery so that you can cross out some answer choices that do not really align with your prediction. And you may be thinking, why QTPA actually work? Because it works because it flips the usual approach on its head. Most students dive straight into the answer choices and get confused by the distractors. But with QTPA, you are in control. You aren't just picking answers, you're solving questions with confidence and clarity. If you found these strategies useful and you want to learn more tips like these, imagine how much your SAT score could improve if you had access to all the best cat secrets in one place. Click on this playlist right here, SAT Tips, where I've shared the advanced strategies and hacks that have helped so many students increase their SAT scores in just weeks. Go ahead and tap the playlist now and start transforming the way. I used to think that scoring high on the SAT was just about studying more, grinding through endless SAT practice questions, memorizing lots of formulas, and memorizing so many vocabulary words. If you apply the right strategies, your score increases. And if you don't use those strategies, you will stay stuck. And it's that simple. So in this video, as you can see in this whiteboard, I will share 5 really powerful strategies, and each one is so important if you're taking the March SAT. So let's get into it. So here we have strategy number 1, and it's called what versus so what method, and it is so powerful. And firstly, I will give you the SAT question that I've created, and then I will show you how this strategy is applied in this specific question, and I will show you how you can use this exact same strategy on other SAT questions. So let's look at this SAT question. So let's start reading this. So it asks for the main idea of the text. Now let's read it. The proliferation of digital consumption, okay, regarding conventional print literature versus emergent electronic media. So they are comparing two things. The first one is conventional print literature, and the second one is emergent electronic media. So while those traditional books, they are for textual engagements, digital alternatives such as ebooks, audiobooks, and hyperlinked articles have introduced a shift in cognitive retention and accessibility. So it says the benefits of both of these methods, both traditional ones and digital ones. So now they're saying what researchers posit. And what those researchers think is integrating both of those, both print and digital formats, will help them for comprehension and recall. Yep. And it says there is an increase in retention rates. Yeah. Now, the main idea, in order to predict this question, this strategy, which is what's versus so what method, is going to help us to predict it. So the first step is, after reading a passage, ask yourself these two questions. So the first question here is, what is the passage talking about? So in this case, you have to find the topic. And in this passage, it was print versus digital media. And then the next question that you want to ask yourself is, so what's the big takeaway? Main idea, in this case, which is main idea, is using both print and digital formats together improves comprehension. So using both is really good. Now we can go to the answer choices and choose the right answer. Choice A. The transition from print to digital media signifies an inevitable of conventional books. Okay. So inevitable is a very extreme word, and I don't really like it. And as well, in addition to that, there's no kind of a transition from print to digital media, and the passage says we have to integrate both. That's why choice A is wrong. Now let's have a look at choice B. Digital consumption modalities have redefined the cognitive processes associated with textual engagement. Nothing about redefining those processes. So that's why choice B is wrong. A hybrid approach integrating print and digital media fosters superior comprehension and retention. And that's exactly what we predicted, and that's the correct answer choice. Now let's have a look at choice D. Audiobooks and ebooks have demonstrably surpassed traditional reading in terms of cognitive efficiency. No, we can't say that, because the passage's conclusion is that we have to integrate both. And in this case, they're saying digital formats are better. No, it's not. So D is also wrong. So the best choice here is choice C. Now, let's move on to the next strategy. Strategy number 2. And it's so powerful. If you use it right, I'm sure you can ace your March SAT or whatever exam you're taking. So it has to do all about extreme words. And knowing these words is going to help you to eliminate answer choices really quickly. And if you can spot those, it's going to be so easy. But I can't guarantee that every single answer choice that uses those extreme words is incorrect. In 99%, in 98% of the times, those answer choices are going to be wrong that include an extreme word. But sometimes if the passage actually says that, then it might also be true. So I've actually went ahead and collected all those extreme words that you should be aware of. And I found three main patterns. So the first type of extreme words is absolute words. And those things include like always, never, completely, forever, all, everyone. And I highly recommend you to be aware of these things, to be aware of these words. And the next type is exaggerated or overgeneralized words. For example, those words can include inevitably, definitely, definitively, undoubtedly, universally, unstoppable. And those words are exaggerated or overgeneralized words. And the next category is comparative versus superlative traps. Best, worst, least, greatest, ultimate, perfect, impossible, no chance. So I highly recommend you to know these. And I've actually got a PDF in the description below if you want to access to these. And now let's move on to the next strategy, strategy number 3. And it's also really, really powerful. And if you know how to use it well, you can ace your exam. So let's start off. So it's all about understanding percentage increases. And a lot of the times on the FAT, in many of the exams, there are always questions related to percentages. So it's really important to understand this strategy. So firstly, before telling you how the strategy works, I want to show you the SAT question that will illustrate how it's used. The result of increasing the quantity X by 200% is 21. What's the value of X? So in this case, we've got a quantity, which is X. And this is like 100%. And if we have to add 200% of that, that would be 200%. That would be 2x. Let me fix that. Yep. 2x. And if we add both, because it's being increased, that would be 3x. 3x equals 21, and x equals 7. So here we found the right answer. So the best choice is B, 7. And here's a trap. D is a trap because they are using the same number as you can see here. So yeah, make sure that you're not gonna be rushing. So the main strategy here is understanding percentage increases. So here are 3 examples of them. 100% increase is doubling the original number. 200% increase is tripling the original number. And 300% increase is quadrupling, and so on and so forth. So here, this was the strategy number 3. And now let's move on to the next strategy, strategy number 4. And that is knowing these March SAT predictions. And the link to the PDF of like literally 100% free 12-page worksheet of those SAT English predictions is in the description below, and you can get access to it completely for free. So now let's move on to the last and most important strategy of all, and it's the one that is way more powerful than all these first 4 strategies. And if you know this one, I'm sure it's gonna be easy. And that strategy or tip, you could say, is avoiding choices that assume too much. Before you click off this video, I want to say that This one is so tricky, and sometimes you may not even realize that you are assuming. That's why you literally have to pay attention to this SAT question that is on the screen right now. And let's have a look at this one. Which choice best describes the function of the two underlined portions in the text as a whole? So as you can see, you have a short 4-line poem and you've got a multiple choice question and which asks us about the function of those two underlined portions. The first one is autumn and leaves, and the second one is my memories drift. So firstly, let's understand what this poem is about. So it's like a story, right? We've got a windy autumn day and there are leaves. They're swirling all over the place. So that means they have no control. They just move wherever they want. The wind pushes them wherever the wind pushes them. And you could think about memories as well here. So yes, they're kind of comparing those two things. And memories are also the ones that we don't really control. And just like those leaves in the wind, our thoughts, our memory drift around chaotically. So I guess the first underlined part, which is leaves, is kind of physical object. And the next second underlined part, which is memories, is abstract thing. So I guess the poem here is making a comparison between those first physical and abstract objects. So now let's go through the answer choices. Choice A. The poem isn't about time passing. It's about how memories move. Let's look at choices. They contrast two perspectives, one external, one internal, on the passage of time. Well, this poem isn't about time passing, and it's about how memories move like those leaves. So this is wrong. Choice B, they provide examples, one natural, one psychological, of a force beyond control. So this one is so tricky, and it's almost correct because both winds and our memories are out of control. But it does examples, and the poem isn't just listing those examples. It's making kind of a comparison, or we can also say that as a metaphor, maybe. Now, choice C, they describe the subjects, one tangible and one intangible, of a metaphor that extends throughout the poem. Yes. So the leaves here are tangible, and the memories here are intangible. And the poem, the poet compares them through very extended metaphor here. So I guess that's a perfect match. Now let's look at choice D. They symbolize two different experiences, one painful and one nostalgic, that the speaker revisits in the poem. Well, the poem never says that one is painful and the other is nostalgic, so that's an assumption, I believe. So as you can see, I believe the best choice here is choice C. And now here's our strategy, which is assuming it looks like this. The SAT only asks about what is actually in the text, not what you think might be true. For example, in this case, in choice A, passage of time would be something that students might think, right? Because memories drift is kind of related to passage of time, but it's something that we're assuming. And even in choice D, you're kind of assuming that one is painful or the other is nostalgic. So that's the thing that you want to look out for. And if you truly want to get a very high SAT score on your upcoming exam, then I believe that you need way more strategies, way more practice questions so that you can nail your exam. And in this playlist right here, you can get access to so many tips, strategies, hacks that you need to get your dream SAT score on your next exam. After working with hundreds of SAT test takers, I've discovered something really crazy. 5 major SAT mistakes that are keeping you stuck at a very low score. And they're not usual tips like study more or do more practice questions. They are the real reasons why your score isn't improving. In this video, I will show you exactly what these mistakes are and how to fix them. Let's get into it. So in this whiteboard, as you can see, there are 5 major mistakes that are keeping you stuck. So let's get started with mistake number 1, which is getting tricked by a partial match. In this case, I will give you an SAT question like this, and I will show you how the College Board is trying to give a trap. So in this question, let's read it. So which choice best states the main idea of the text? So it's asking about the main idea. Now let's read the text. The Metropolitan Museum of Art curates a vast collection that spans thousands of years, showcasing works from diverse cultures and time periods. So the most important words here are vast collection and diverse cultures and time periods. Some of its exhibits highlights the masterpieces of renowned artists such as Leonardo da Vinci and that person drawing large crowds. So it's saying those exhibits highlights those very famous artists. However, so here we have a change in our text. The museum also dedicates significant space to lesser known artists. So lesser known, so they're contrasting, saying that they not only show those very famous artists, but they also show less famous artists, including those from underrepresented communities whose works provide a unique perspective on historical and cultural narratives. So our prediction is that they exhibit not only famous ones, but also those who are lesser known. Now let's go to choices. Choice A, the Metropolitan Museum of Art's exhibits featuring Leonardo da Vinci attract significantly more visitors than those showcasing lesser known artists. There's nothing about the number of visitors in this text, so that's why choice A is wrong. Choice B, the Metropolitan Museum of Art showcases both famous and lesser known artists to highlight the universal power of artistic expression. Yes, it focuses on famous and lesser known artists, so let's keep this choice. Choice C, the museum exhibits featuring lesser known artists focus more on historical narratives than on art techniques. So this choice is wrong because there is no comparison between historical narratives and artistic techniques. It's very detailed thing, and it's too specific, and it cannot be the main idea of the text. And in addition to that, this wrong answer choice includes real words from the passage, but with a twist. And to choice A and C here includes real words from the passage, like historical narratives. Let me show you the same exact word, historical narratives. So it's using the exact same phrase, but it adds a misleading comparison, more on historical narratives than artistic techniques. So make sure that you don't fall for it. And that's why choice C is wrong. Now let's have a look at choice D. The Metropolitan Museum of Art originally displayed only famous European artists, but has since expanded to include artists from various backgrounds. There's nothing about European artists, so we can eliminate this choice. So the best choice here is choice B. So as you can see, that's the mistake, which is getting tricked by a partial match. Some sort of phrase is used from the passage. It does not mean that that is the correct answer. Now let's move on to mistake number 2, which is choosing an answer that is true but not the best supports. Now let me show you through a real SAT questions I created. So which choice, if true, would most directly supports the analyst's claim? A leading online retailer recently introduced a chatbot designed to enhance customer interactions by offering instant responses to inquiries. So it's a chatbot and it will give you responses instantly within seconds. Initially, some company executives worried that customers who engaged with the chatbot would feel less inclined to reach out to human representatives, reducing overall engagement with the company. However, so here we have a shift, contrast. Company analysts report that their survey data shows these concerns were unwarranted. So they first thought that if we have a chatbot, then people will not be inclined to reach out to humans. But that is actually not true. Instead, I believe my prediction is that it's actually increases the overall engagement with the company. Now let's look at choices. Choice A, most surveyed customers who contacted the company indicated they were unaware of the chatbot before their first interaction. This is not something that is stated, and we don't really care whether they were aware of that chatbot before or after the first interaction. That's why choice A is wrong. Also, yep, so now let's look at choice B. Most surveyed customers who contacted the company indicated that they primarily sought help with complex issues requiring human assistance. Well, there's nothing about complex or simple issues, that's why we can eliminate choice B. Many surveyed customers who contacted the company indicated that the chatbot helped them feel more comfortable reaching out to human representatives. Yes, that's the exact same thing that the passage says. It increases overall engagement. And engagement could be feeling more comfortable reaching out to human representatives of that company. So yes, that's the best choice here. Choice C is the answer, but still, let's have a look at choice D and prove why D is also wrong. Many surveyed customers who contacted the company indicated they would likely use the chatbot again to review their past interactions. I mean, the part that is kind of a little bit off is reviewing their past interactions, and it's not something that is related. That's why choice D is also wrong. And in this case, the mistake that a ton of students make is picking an answer that seems factually reasonable, but it doesn't directly prove the claim. As an example, many students take choice D. Choice D. And the reason why it's wrong is because this shows that users like the chatbot, but it doesn't prove whether chatbot use increases or maintains that human engagement. It has nothing to do with increased engagement. That's why it should directly connect to the claim. So now let's move on to mistake number 3. And this one is also so powerful that so many students unintentionally make this mistake. And that mistake is falling for that's a linking work as a paraphrase trap. And let me show you how it's used. The historical, which is a temple in Athens, has withstood numerous earthquakes over centuries due to its unique construction techniques. In 2020, researchers examined how similar techniques were used in Japan's temple, which has survived over 1,300 years despite frequent seismic activity. And now the next sentence talks about the interlocking wooden joints in that temple allow the structure to flex and absorb earthquake forces without collapsing. So the first sentence talks about those earthquake resistant techniques, and the next sentence talks about that new temple, that temple in Japan and its similar technique. And I believe that the missing transition must show how the second sentence relates to the first. So now let's analyze each option logically. Choice A, furthermore. It adds a new and additional points, but this is not just an extra detail. It explains something that is very specific, so we can eliminate this choice. Meanwhile suggests two things happening at the same time. But this isn't a timeline comparison, so we can eliminate this choice as well. That is kind of clarifies or restates something. But the second sentence is not a restatement. It's an example. So now we can eliminate this choice as well. For example, introduces a specific illustration of a very general idea, which is exactly what the second sentence here does. That's why choice D is the correct answer choice. Let me explain you that mistake. If the second sentence rewords or re-explains the first one, that would be correct. But in this case, as you saw, it's not a paraphrase, it's a specific example. Now let's move on to the next mistake. Mistake number 4. And that is picking an answer that appears in only one passage, and it's related to texts. And let's solve this question in order to understand what that mistake is and how we can fix it. Based on the text, both authors would most likely agree with which statements? So let's read text 1. Urban planners working on stream restoration project emphasize the importance of maintaining natural vegetation along riverbanks. This vegetation not only prevents erosion but also supports wildlife and improves water quality. Many cities are now prioritizing the planting of native vegetation in their urban stream restoration efforts to counteract the effects of past urbanization. So they were talking about natural vegetation being good, and it's listing some of its benefits. Now let's read text 2. Ecologists studying urban streams have found that restoring natural vegetation along the riverbanks plays a crucial role in stabilizing ecosystems. The presence of native plants reduces erosion, filters pollutants, and provides habitat for fish and other aquatic species. As a result, many urban restoration projects focus on reintroducing these plants as a key part of their strategy. So the text 2 also says that natural vegetation is good, right? Telling some even more benefits of it. Now let's read the choices. Cities often struggle to maintain native vegetation in urban stream restoration projects, and there's nothing about struggling. So A is wrong because of that. Choice B, native vegetation is essential for protecting and improving urban streams. Yes, that sounds the right answer, so let's keep it. Choice C, urban planners focus more on reducing pollution than restoring natural vegetation. There's no comparison here, so that's why choice C is wrong. The role of native vegetation in urban ecosystems is widely debated among experts. There's no debate in both of these texts, so D is also wrong. And as you can see, choice B is the best answer choice here. So choice A mentions a struggling to maintain vegetation, but this is not discussed in both texts. That's why my recommendation is to choose an answer that both authors agree on. Now let's move on to mistake number 5, which is not knowing the right strategies. If you really want to get a high score on the SAT, then I believe that you should know way more strategies. And in this playlist right here, I dive into so many strategies that you will need for different type of question types on the SAT. So make sure to watch that video.